This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Carm Capriato back with you at the Transformers 2022. Yeah, I know you've heard me say this over and over again. We're in Cancun, and someone had to do it. Right, John? We're in Cancun with Remarkable Results Radio, the premier podcast for personal and professional development in the automotive service aftermarket. John Dijulius is here. You just heard his voice. I have become such a huge fan of John that when I saw the schedule and you were going to be a keynote speaker this morning, I was so excited about the possibility. I mean, really, I think I got up this morning at 2:00 saying, God, yesterday, hopefully that when you were done, you had some extra time and you could come into the studio, because I interviewed you 2 years ago virtually. And now you're here live. I've read his books, Customer Service Revolution and Relationship Economy. And I showed him, he signed the books, and I showed him how I take notes in a book. And he says, all the pages that I would sign, Carm, you wrote on them.
Right.
I won't forget that. That was cool. I have to remember never to do that again in case I ever meet the author, right? But this guy is a quintessential customer service person. You were on fire today. Thank you for the hour and a half you spent with us. And I really think motivated the group. We went from Disney World to you name all the great stories. But I want to know something a little bit more about how you got to be such a premier person. I mean, some of the biggest brands in the industry, you work with. It's so impressive to see some of these Fortune 500 companies that's invited John to come in and help them create a customer experience above and beyond anything that exists. And how did you get into this? And oh, by the way, John owns salons in Cleveland, and that was kind of the basis that made you blossom, wasn't it?
Yeah, everything is an accident, right? I love telling kids, and what I mean by kids is Tracy and under, 30 and under, but just how everything, is an accident. And both of my primary careers were freak accidents, and if we would have known each other 30 years ago, I would have bet you $1 million that, if you would have said, hey, someday you're going to own salons, I said, no, I'm not. And if you would then, when I was operating the salons, if you said you'd be a consultant speaking, I would have said no interest. But try to keep it a short story. Met my wife, who is this amazing hairdresser. When I got out of college, I chose to go driving for UPS. I was loading trucks in the middle of the night all during college. And so back in 1989, I had the option of, with my marketing degree, getting about an $18,000 to $20,000 salary somewhere, or I had enough seniority to go driving at UPS, which was $45,000, which was $1 billion to me at the time, right? And so, but there's a drawback to that, right? It wasn't a job I loved. It got me out of debt, but whether you make $45,000 or $100 or $1 million, you're going to spend $1 million in one, you're going to spend 46, right? So our income adjusted, bought a house, started having kids. And so now I have golden handcuffs because I can't, go anywhere, and make, half that. I'm hoping, I'm saying, God, in 28 more years, 3 months and 2 days, I could retire. And I'm thinking, what an awful way to go through life, is hoping I get old as fast as I can. So I knew I always wanted to own my own business. I always had these, crazy ideas. And so the only thing I could think of was I wanted to be a business owner, and I love sports. I had played baseball in college, but that was as far as that was going to go. So I thought, all right, I'll open a sporting goods store. That was like the only 2 + 2 I could put together. So I met my wife, and she was this unbelievable hairdresser. And so we opened a salon, hoping that if that took off, that would give us quit a good paying job and try my thing. We struggled, or she struggled at first, not knowing, we didn't know better. And we almost went out of business for the first 4 or 5 weeks. So I jumped in. I was just like doing the books at night after I'd get home from UPS. So I started getting really involved to try to make sure this wasn't the quickest business in history. And then between her technical expertise, which your audience can relate to, technical expertise, and my customer experience that I for some reason I was just passionate about. I don't know if I was passionate about it at the time, but we had the 3 no's. No money, no customers, no employees. And we couldn't outspend, advertise, outbuild all the salons up and down our street. But the industry, as a lot were back then, was horrible at customer service, horrible at employee experience, and all those things. So we said, all right, that's where we're going to be. We're not going to be the best salon. We're going to be the best experience of your day, right? Because that's an important distinction, because we can all say we have, the best automotive experience. But here's the thing. If I bring my car to you, I then don't go down the street to your competitor and compare. I don't need an auto repair service for a while, hopefully. So what am I comparing my experiences to? Everything else I'm doing that day. So we wanted you to go to the doctor's office or meet your girlfriends for lunch or go shopping and be disappointed in everything that followed. We wanted to have like a hangover of like, why don't they greet me as well as, John Roberts Spa? Why aren't they, all those things. So we get involved, and all of a sudden the salon starts booming, taking off, growing, unprecedented. And so shortly after that, in the mid-90s, people in Cleveland started asking me to speak. Chambers of Commerce, but they were like, hey, you guys got a great reputation. My wife goes there. We want to hear what you're doing. So I only did it because I thought it was good marketing, right? You'd hear me speak.
Yeah, especially locally.
That's all it was.
Yeah,
and I thought, you'd buy your wife a gift certificate, and, that's all. That's fine. I wasn't getting paid for it. But every time I spoke, 2 or 3 people would come up after, business owners, and say, can we hire you to come in and do this for, our company? I'm like, do what? I don't understand like what you're asking. I didn't know there was a thing. And so then I started speaking, but running the business, and I thought, I was going to be in the salon industry for the rest of my life and build that, kept on getting more and more opportunities. And so finally, 20 years ago, next month, January 2003, my first book came out. And Secret Service. And so up to that point, I was a salon owner that spoke a half a dozen times, mostly in the beauty industry, where I belonged, at big events, if they were big events.
To teach them the customer service aspect of what they're missing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And
but what drove you to write the book?
I'm getting invited to speak at some bigger events. Now, the Michael Gerbers and Jim Gilmore and the rock stars back then were on main stage. And I was doing a breakout where you needed a map and a flashlight to find.
Got it.
And justifiably so.
30 people, no PowerPoint.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And so what I'd do is I'd watch them. I'd be like, oh my God, like they're great.
Yeah, right.
So I'd wait in line with, the 100 people after they got done speaking, and I'd go up and say, hi, I'm a speaker too. I think I'm pretty good at it. And they were like, slow down. And they were so generous.
That's how I got some of my early interviews.
Right. And so they gave me tips. They gave me their number. They couldn't have been more generous. And they told me what I needed to do. And they gave me a bunch of advice. And so one of the things was you got to write a book.
Yeah.
And so I wrote my first book, Secret Service. And so when it came out, it took me from being a salon owner that spoke a little bit to a speaker that owned salons. And then I started getting hired by real companies, Chick-fil-A, Ritz-Carlton, Starbucks, and learned more than I was teaching them. And then, it just exploded. And now I haven't been in the salon industry since.
Because the world is void of outstanding, exceptional customer service. We're void of it.
Yeah, and I also think one of my competitive advantages, if you want to call it back then, is I was an entrepreneur doing it versus just someone that was telling people how to do it.
Yeah.
I was living at the pointy end of the spear in my own business, trying to make payroll, trying to keep customers happy. It was a living laboratory. So that gave me a lot of credibility because I was achieving that in my own business.
When I think of Greg Bunch at Transformers, he still owns his shop. So here he is a coach and a leader of an organization like this, but his baseline, if you will, is still owning the business. John, I think you hit on something incredible. She was an incredible, talented hairdresser.
Yes.
So many shop owners today that are in my audience that are struggling in our industry were phenomenal technicians, and they started a business.
I don't care who you are, restaurant, right? You're an amazing chef, amazing landscaper, amazing IT. And you may wake up one day and say, I'm sick of making the guy rich, and go off on their own.
Yeah, it's easy.
Right. And then you hang a shingle, but you don't know the business end of it. Customer comes in and complains, and you throw them out. Just because it's just not a part of the thing. So what happened to us, and I believe it applies to your industry, why the salons were successful immediately and still are, but back then was most artists, right? In any business, a technician, a repair, a hairdresser, chef, they are so good at this, but back to what we were talking about, they don't have the business savvy. So the pendulum is way over here, but the business process systems, customer service, employee experience, all those were crappy. When I got into it, I was over here with only the business.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to cut hair, saved my life. My wife was over here, and we kind of fought and it kept the pendulum in the middle.
Got it.
She had to teach me, hold on, hairdressers don't want to work at IBM. So tone that down a little bit. You can't be corporate systems only. And I was always, trying to, it kept it. And quite frankly, a lot of small businesses just didn't have that. So that pendulum of, business with the artistry.
One of the things you talked about today was the price of some of the services that you have. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but you mentioned $150 of something. And I don't remember if it was a color and a cut or it was a
haircut.
It was a haircut.
Yeah.
And you told about when you started and what the haircuts cost then. And how that you are probably the highest priced salon organization group in Cleveland.
Correct.
The message that I pulled from that I want to cover here for just a little bit is we are struggling in our industry to have people raise their labor rate of what they charge per hour. And I can't do that. I'm going to lose customers. If I do that, I'll be the highest price in town. You've got to tell the story about, this is such a great story about the shop down the road that says haircuts for what, $10? And then you put up a sign. But tell us how it is that you guys have justified being the highest price and how you give such exceptional customer services that price just doesn't matter.
Yeah, our whole shtick is to make price irrelevant. And you get pushback, it's impossible to make price irrelevant. Well, what I don't mean by making price irrelevant is that you can just pick a number out of thin air and say, I'm going to charge 500, 1,000, 10,000, and people will pay it. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is making price irrelevant means based on the experience your brand consistently delivers, your customers should have no idea what your competition charges because they should never be window shopping. I'm so loyal to a few businesses. Now, there's others that you better be the cheapest or I'm going somewhere else because, but there's a few businesses we all do business with that, have built such peace of mind, an emotional connection, compassion and empathy, and have made brilliant comebacks that, I'm not going anywhere else. So that's what we were all about. We wanted to be the highest. Very few businesses, or there's no businesses I know of that are the highest that go out of business. We actually get more customers by being the highest. Even when I spoke, my speaking career, obviously I started off free, 500, 1,500, right? And I lost speeches, opportunities. People call and say, I hear you're really good. What do you charge? I go, I charge 5,000. And like, oh, I could do it for 4,000. And they're like, we'll give it. And I found out I lost credibility. They're like, oh, I thought you were a real speaker, right? So now that, I'm, much higher, like I get more clients from that end because they think that's, justified. You have to justify it. But anyway, back to this story. We were 3-4 times as much as the average hair salon in Cleveland. And there was a salon 4 doors down from one of our locations that's put a sign in the window, we do $10 haircuts. And our staff panicked. They thought they were running us out of business. And they thought we had to start discounting. I said, no, we don't play that game. Let's focus on our experience. Let's strengthen, be brilliant at the basics. Let's raise it. And then we put a sign in our window that said, we fix $10 haircuts.
I love it.
And then that salon went out of business about 10 years later. So my thing is, and you heard me say this also, I believe in price match guarantee, the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I want the mentality to be in my business and my client's business is that there is no one better at what we do than us from an expertise and an experience standpoint. And we will not be oversold. In fact, if you can find it higher somewhere else, we will raise our prices and match it.
I love it. Please let that sink in.
And so you go back to that story. If you tell me, John, I just looked up and there's a salon in Cleveland that actually charges $170 for a haircut, that would piss me off. Now, I wouldn't say, well, damn it, we're charging $175. It doesn't work like that. I would have to go find out what they're doing to justify that $170 haircut. Prettier salon, better customer service, prettier chandelier, better coffee, whatever it is. We'd find out, we'd raise our game, and then we could outprice them. if you said, John, I actually came across a customer service speaker that charges more than you, that would piss me off. I'd be like, how dare they? But I wouldn't just raise my price $5,000 or $10,000. I'd want to know how their job, do they customize their presentation better? Are they funnier? Are they this? And I would, that would force me to raise my game. So being the most expensive, you have to justify it.
So obviously, when you were charging $500, whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. Let's just pick a number. When you were charging $2,000
as a speaker,
when you're charging say $2,000 as a speaker, and now whatever the number doesn't matter, but it's way north of that. Did you go and study you're in the audience, you're very animated, the slides are all in particular order, you're offering, did all of that, what you do today, evolve because you wanted to be at that highest rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so the story is if we want to be at that highest rate, what are we as an industry, what are you as a shop owner?
What are we raising? Yeah.
What are you doing to justify it?
So we do this exercise that your listeners can do. In the hair industry, we'd get our team together. And this is 25 years ago. I'm not involved in the hair salons anymore, but back when I was, I'd say, what if we raise our prices to $1,000 haircut? This might be when we were charging $50, right? Our staff was like, oh my God, we can't do that. But what would your greeting be like when someone walked in? What's $1,000 greeting, right? What's $1,000 shoulder, neck, and head massage that we do before a shampoo? Would it even be legal? When you open the drawer and take the comb or brush out to do someone's hair, would you have to say, hold on, let me take the last person's hair out of the comb, right? Or would it be a sealed, thing? So you go through and you get, let's say, 30 examples of what we would do if we charged $1,000. We did the same exercise on what if we charge for the Dijulius group, what if we charge $1 million for a keynote speech? Imagine that. What would that look? What would the customization? What would, when you show up, all that, go through the exact same, you get all these ideas. Then let's say you get 30 really good ideas, and then 28 of them don't cost anything. So then we say, well, why don't we give $1,000 haircut experience and only charge $50? How easy will it be next year to take our $50 haircut to $65 or $70, right? And that transform it. Give the experience before you're charging for it, and then you can get there. Be there before you get there, and you'll get there.
I got to build on that.
Okay.
We're talking about raising labor rates. Too many people in the industry are saying, I'm going to lose customers. But the exercise...
They're losing employees.
Yeah, because the profit's not there to pay for the good ones to stick around.
Right.
I think the industry is slowly starting to get that, but it's the moves that aren't happening. It's the being proactive, and I'm learning, but I'm not doing. I've got to be a better learner to take advantage of the things that I'm learning. But do this exercise, sit down with your team and say, we're going to raise our labor rates, and say it's currently at $110. You believe that in order to really be successful, you probably need to be maybe around $149, $150. And you say, what if we raised our labor rate team to $200?
$250. Make it stretch it.
Yeah, stretch it.
So
and then have the discussion.
Man. And so it goes back to if I was in the shop industry, I talked about this today, and you brought your car in.
Yeah.
And I see that you have, Diet Coke, Sprite, an old bottle in the cup holder. I'm going to put a fresh one cold when you pull up. And you're like, how did he know I like, Diet Sprite, right? These little things that really don't take anything, but they would certainly justify. And I want to make sure no one listening thinks, all right, I just got to raise my prices tomorrow. You have to justify it.
Yeah.
You have to be a bargain at $250. Now $150. Who's going to, sneeze at that?
Are we worth it?
Yeah.
You mentioned today that we are, as a consumer, so vulnerable when we have a broken down car.
Yeah.
And how do you cushion the blow? I mean, that's what you talk about.
Yeah. So we call industries like yours a grudge buy, right? A grudge buy is the two things I don't want to do. I didn't have $500, $2,500 burning a hole in my bank account saying, what can I spend this on? No one is excited about spending $2,500 on a repair, right? So it's not what I want to do with my money. But even worse, or pretty close, depending on the person, I don't have the time to lose today, right? If you could magically fix my car and I don't lose a minute of my day, that would be worth it. But I don't have 3 hours to take it in, going to work late, come back, all those things. So that's a grudge buy, right? Going to the dentist, paying insurance, going to see the doctor with a back problem or physical therapy, or getting my car repaired, right? But there's an advantage with when your grudge buy means you're dealing with people there's most vulnerable point, right? The worst part of my week, worst part of my month is my car is broken down. I'm having problems. It's causing me delays. I need to get it fixed. I'm anticipating this to be like, going to the dentist. If I haven't been to your shop, I'm judging you like my past experiences. This is going to stink. I don't know if I could trust them. It's going to be a delay. It's going to be, they're going to tell me it'll be done in 3 hours and it's going to be done in 3 days. All the things we've conjured up from bad experience in the past. And I come in and hey, dude, this sucks for you. I know, this is the last thing. Here's what we're going to do. And you help me get back to whole sooner, and you're on my side. When you can come to the rescue for people when they're at their most vulnerable, there is an emotional connection and a memory to that I'm jealous of, that in the salon industry, that as a consultant, that a Starbucks, that a Ritz-Carlton doesn't get a chance to do, because most of our customers aren't coming to us in a vulnerable spot. And I get jealous of the grudge buys because of the emotional connection that can be made when you come to the rescue. And so as I talked about today, a lot of my clients in grudge buy use the theme, who's going to wear the cape today, right? You could be a hero 15 times today, and I'm mad because I can't be a hero 15 times this year.
Stop and think about that. Be the hero for the client. Prices are relevant. Calm them down. Hopefully this is a client that you know. You know all about them. You've
Right.
built a relationship. Prices are relevant. And just be their hero. Get them on their way. Make them happy.
Yeah. When you're in it with me, when you make me feel that you're in it with me,
Yeah.
and you understand the inconvenience I'm going through, that changes everything.
So what happens when a client walks in and says, hey, I can get it cheaper down the road?
Right. And that's critical. And every person listening better have this articulated and it better be part of their training, because right now, everyone listening, someone is getting asked that on your team. You charge what? Oh, and then they say, well, I called this place, or there's an ad on the internet, 50%, whatever it's called. And it's what we say next. Too many people shrink and they say, oh, we'll match it. We'll lower our price. We'll throw in a free oil change. And that's shrinking. I love when people ask me about price, because basically you're saying, so let's go to my specific, and then you can tell me how that translates to your industry. So let's say Greg, and this didn't happen, but let's say Greg calls up and speaks to, Claudia and says, I heard John's a good speaker and we're looking for a keynote speaker for our conference on customer service. And, how much does he charge? She quotes him and he's surprised. He's like, whoa, the other customer service speakers I'm looking at are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 cheaper. Okay. So Claudia's going to say, oh yeah, I could see why, that's important. I'm sure your budget's important. But let me ask you a couple of questions, Greg. This is an annual conference? Yeah. We get everyone together once a year. Yeah. Once a year we bring them in. So if that speaker you hire for $5,000, $10,000 less stinks or doesn't deliver like you hope, it's not like you can get everyone back together next month in Cancun and do it right. No. These people are coming. That's it. That's it for 2022. Okay, let me ask you something else, Greg. The people attending this conference, they're members, right? Yeah, they're members. And what do you think your annual conference, the Transformer Institute conference, what do you think that important that is to them re-signing to, be members again and coming back next year? Oh, it's one of the highest things our members say why they are members, right? The annual conference, besides a bunch of other things. And our retention to the next year's conference will be dependent on how good we are this year. So Claudia will say, so what you're telling me, Greg, is if your keynote speaker doesn't crush it, you might lose members, and you'll definitely next year's conference have a harder time getting. Your attendance won't go up. It'll probably go down. 100%. Greg will say 100%. Claudia will say, huh. And then Greg, she just, now he's thinking, I can't afford to hire the $15,000 speaker, right?
Yeah.
I can't afford, because what it's going to cost me. I'm going to lose members, lose attendance, lose credibility. And so that's how the whole way you have to answer it. And you could tell me how that works in your world, and I'm guessing, and we've all had this. What if you don't repair the car the right way? Oh, that's okay. You can come back next week and we'll re-repair it. That cheaper, that rare. I don't have another day to bring my car back to you.
Exactly.
Right? And also you start putting these doubts in someone's mind. And we're not disparaging competition. We're just saying the peace of mind of doing business with us, it's going to be done right, and all the other things.
I look at whatever the number was, John, divided by the number of people in the room. There's the cost per head. It's not the big picture if regarding paying for a speaker. It's the cost per head. And I invested this in my membership. I'm investing this in my customer. I mean, in our industry, it's kind of a little different because you got a person in their vulnerable spot. But if we haven't educated the customer kind of before they come in, I mean, we saw you do a little bit of that stuff. And there's this trend in our industry is to get the video to a brand new customer before they come in. So the ice has been broken. And because in many cases on our counters, we don't have a chance to explain in depth everything we do.
So Carm, help me understand. What's the video look like before I'm a customer?
Hi, it's Carm. I'm so glad you're coming in tomorrow. I'm the
service. Okay, all right. So I booked the appointment.
I'm the service advisor. Here's what we're going to do when you come in. We're going to put all your critical information, if you haven't already done it, on our website, and we're going to do a complete.
That'll expedite your check-in, check-out,
all that. And the script,
here's what you can expect,
John.
Here's what's going to happen.
The script's on the wall in the back office. You take your selfie video and you just fill in the blanks, and you're helping this individual come in with already a feeling of, I know these people.
Yeah. No, there's so many things I love about what you just described, Carm. We all have our stereotypes, right, of every industry.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, man, did I make the right call with this shop?
Yeah, remorse, buyer remorse.
Right. Are they gonna, give me one price and then, tell me this? Are they gonna tell me it's 3 hours and it's 3 days? All these things going through our head. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, I get a video and Carm's a real person, and he's a nice guy, and he smiles, and there's behind him is a picture of his family. Now he's a human being, and he's in the certainty business. And the biggest anxiety, and this is why the pandemic was so hard on all of us, they say that the biggest cause of anxiety is uncertainty, okay? And every business has to be in the certainty business. And so there was a study done, I think Chris Voss or someone talked about this in one of his books. There was a group of people, let's say 100 people in an auditorium. And they said, listen, you're going to be sitting here for 45 minutes and you're doing it. But we have to tell you, 50% of you are going to get an electric shock in your chair, right? We're going to give you an option. You could wait and see if you're the 50% that gets it or doesn't. Or if you want, you could take the shock now and get it over with. Close to 80% took the shock because they couldn't stand the unknown, right? I mean, think about that. So when you're in the certainty business, now we can go to a doctor's and get an MRI. Now the technician at the doctor's can't say what the results are yet, right? So he can't provide that certainty. But what they can provide is say, Carm, here's what's going to happen. Your x-rays are going to be sent to the radiologist. They're going to do this, and then they're going to send that within 24 or 48 hours to your doctor, and you're going to get a call from your doctor, or it's going to be on my chart or whatever. And that's being in the certainty business, right? Yeah. Now I'm not, you didn't tell me if I negative or positive, but I know. And so that's what you're doing. That video does is you put me in it. Here's what you're going to expect to do when you drop off your car tomorrow. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to do a diagnostic, and I'm so out of my league right now. Boom, boom, boom. And you gave me peace of mind versus, whatever I'm thinking.
Hey, I'm going to tell you a real story. My wife went for her traditional mammogram 3 years ago now, and they found something. So they did the biopsy in the office and said, go home, we'll call you by X. And when X came around, we got no call. And it just really put all kinds. God. This whole uncertainty thing was so heavy. I mean, if I'm helping you hear this story, what John just said, I'm going to tie it together with this whole healthcare thing. And of course, she had breast cancer and beat it.
Oh, thank God.
Beat it. I know.
I was afraid where that story was going.
3 years. But I'll never forget that time just being
3
together,
p.m.,
waiting.
You're going to call up by 3 p.m. Now it's 3:01. Now it's 4:30. Now it's the next day. And every horrible thought in the world. And what is so strong about that, one of our always should be that we return, customers' calls, voicemails, emails, whatever, same day, whatever you do.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Sometimes, hey, did you call, Garrett back? No, because I haven't heard from Terry the answer I need to call him back. Then you call him back with that, right? If you don't have an answer for your customer, you call him back with that. Hey, Carm, I want to let you know, I haven't found out yet if we can get that part in or when the parts come in or whatever it is, but I'm working on it and I hope to have an answer no later than noon tomorrow. That's an answer. But when you don't call me back when you said you do, now I start thinking, I know what it is. I don't spend enough with him. I'm not a VIP. He has too many customers and I need to start going somewhere else because I'm at the bottom of the total. And you start, getting, and God forbid what your wife was going through. That's on a different level, right? And that is cruelty. What your wife went through or healthcare, that is cruelty to ever do. Now, if someone had called and said, I apologize, we don't have the test results back. We do expect them by, at least she would have felt a little better.
Well, John, she never went back.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She never went back.
Yeah.
She, of course, found the doctors that were going to take care of her who had their own screening systems. Right. And she said, hey, do you have screening systems? Yes. Okay, good. I want to come to your place. Now, I don't think she explained to them the pressure that they put her under.
There's so many parallels to your industry.
If you say you're going to do something at this time, to your point, do it. Good or bad advice, or good or bad answers.
I'll bring it back to our industry. Same thing with price. The only time we get a price complaint in any of my businesses, I'll give you 2 times. It's not because the customers are cheap or they're not willing to pay it. One is the experience didn't warrant the price we're charging, okay? And I want to circle back to that because there's a really good story to that. But another one is why we get a complaint is because it might have said highlights, $150 and up. Now she checks out and it's $205, right? And she just remembers 150. She doesn't remember and up. And this is a critical in your business, and I'm sure it's hopefully no one ever is saying, but hey, what you're asking for is this, and this, and that, and you have long hair, whatever. That's going to cost about $205. Do you still want me to proceed? She might say, no, I only have 100. All right, I'll back off. We'll do 150. I just understand you won't get everything you originally asked for. Or 205 is fine. But when I go up expecting to pay 150 and it's 205, I feel ripped off, right? And so that's what we got to make sure. That's the certainty business. That's why a great story I have. So back to the salon example is I used to have my staff, young hairdressers. They feel guilty about charging $75, $125, $150 for a haircut when they themselves might not pay that, right? And so anytime they would get a complaint, they say, it's because my prices are too high, right? They're complaining because our prices are too high.
They're selling from their own wallet.
So what we would do, right? So what I did was I said, you're right. Until I had a great smoking gun example. 20 years ago, I had a woman go to our level 1 designer. She was probably charging $35 at the time, right? We have level 1s to level 10s. Level 10s are the ones in 100, 150.
Okay.
She gets up, she leaves. She says, I didn't like my experience. It wasn't worth it. $35, right? We say, we're so sorry. We will not charge you. And we'll give you a gift certificate with one of our level 6 designers who charge $70. Okay. We want you to, try us again, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The woman comes back 20 years later. Today, that woman is still coming to us. She's who was once a level 6 designer at $70, $75, who now is charging $150. Okay? Think about that. At $35, she felt she was getting ripped off. She's paying $150 every 4 weeks. That's a bargain to her. It's not the price, it's the experience. It's everything we give it with it. So don't blame it on the price.
I have to tell you, my brain never stops, John. And you just told me about the level 10 people that charge $150. And here's my thought. We have a crew of technicians in our shops. And I was thinking, wow, could my guy who could, take his lab coat out and the computers, plug in, do all his high-level diagnostics, fix that the car won't start. No other shop in town could fix it. And you've come, and we're going to put our level 10 technician on it. Oh, and by the way, he gets paid blankety blank.
He would have a waiting list. He would have a waiting list, and then your level 1 or 2, wide open, right? I mean, it would, and maybe you guys have already thought of this, but what was it, 10, 15 years ago, Celebrity Chef, or whatever those shows that came out. Now chefs are like, even if, the chef came over to our table. Oh, the chef. The restaurant industry did a great job by making the chef elevate. Yeah. We should do that, or you should do that with your technicians.
You're right. We need to elevate our technicians, but when they do a different kind of service, we typically have a different labor rate because we're putting one of our more experienced guys that we've invested so much in training on, that rate, that, if you will, that testing or diagnostic rate is much higher than our typical door rate. But I love the concept, almost the marketing feel that we're going to put one of our level 10 guys on this, and our testing rate is $210 an hour to get this thing figured out.
Yeah, listen, I love my car. It's a fancy car. I don't want you putting a rookie on my car. I would pay more to make sure. Right. And then all of a sudden, the most expensive in any industry, in any city, is the most demand.
You said something this morning that my listener has to hear. You were talking about the tax you pay for discounting.
Yeah, discounting is the tax you pay for being average. It hurts and it's painful, right? And now maybe there's some brands that's their strategy. Great, but don't chase price. Don't be the lowest bidder. So you want more proof that people can make price irrelevant? Apple, right? People just millions just upgraded to the Apple 14 iPhone, right, for $1,400 or $1,300. You kidding me?
She wants one.
I bought it too, right? I mean, you look at all these great brands who've proven they've made price irrelevant, but it wasn't just because they picked a number out of the hat. They justify it, and it's all the things. I mean, there's 6 things that make a company, a brand, customers can't live without. Hopefully I'll remember them, okay? But these 6 things are, number 1, the quality, right? The quality of work. Now, here's the thing. Don't think that the quality of work, our nearest competitors are pretty close to what we do, right? If you go get I've never had anything other than iPhone, but I'm sure I've heard of Samsung and Galaxy. Those are good phones, but people are more loyal to Apple. The second thing, and I was going to forget it, but is the consistency, right? And we talked about that this morning, is we don't want, the enemy of great customer experience is inconsistency, and which we call employee roulette. And employee roulette means your level of experience is based on which employee you get. That's horrible. We all battle with that. So they're consistent. They're brilliant at the basics. No matter who I get in what department, they're going to give me the same type of experience. It's not going to say, if you get calm, but if you don't get calm, wait for, you don't want that. The third thing I'm going to try to remember them all is employee evangelism. Okay, you go into Apple, and they're geniuses. They are amped up about 2 things. One, they love what they do. They're geeks, and you could tell it, and they're oozing, and they want to talk to you about it. And you're like, dude, calm down, just fix my computer. But you do like that, right? You like the enthusiasm. They like who they do it for, too. They love Apple. They're proud of the company they work for. So that employee evangelism. They educate versus sell. I am a technology geek. I used to say I was a closet, geek, but I've probably come out of the closet. Like, I have to have the newest thing as soon as it comes out. It's a sickness, right? Okay, I am so afraid you're going to have a bell or a whistle that I don't have, right? Horrible, horrible thing. So years ago, I had one of the iPads, the original iPad, and the iPad 2 came out. Oh my God, I got to have it. So I run into the Apple store, and the genius says, how can I help you? I say, I have the iPad. I want the iPad 2. Easy. Grab box. Here's my credit card. I'm gone. He doesn't do that. He says, let me ask you, what do you use the iPad for currently?
Needs assessment, huh?
Right. I say, everything. Well, can you be more specific? Yeah, emails. I read. It's my Kindle. I read articles, social media, yada, yada. He goes, all right, good. Do you watch movies? He goes, no. I say, no, not on my iPad. He goes, do you play video games? I'm like, no, never. He goes, forget about it. I said, what? He goes, the only difference between the iPad 2 and the original iPad that you have is the graphic design card. And if you don't watch movies or you don't play games, you will not see any benefit of it. I'm like, dude, come on. I go, I will start playing games. Sell me a game. I want the iPad. But I didn't buy it based on his recommendation.
Right.
But I became a lifelong customer of his. And the next time I came in and he suggested, I bought it. And then, one of the 6 things is how you make me feel, that you personalize, you get to know me, that I'm a human being. I'm not just next. I'm not just, the radiator or whatever it is. I'm John, who has 3 boys, who needs his car for whatever he does. And, I'm a human being.
I got to stop for a moment
Yeah.
and say this. If you're loving what you're hearing and John's inspiring you, motivating you, the 2 books that I read that I think are just so incredibly important for our industry, if you want to really kick your customer service up, the relationship up, is, of course, Customer Service Revolution. 3 years old now, maybe?
That came out in 2015. The Relationship Economy came out in 2020.
Yeah, lucky enough, he signed both books for me. I've got, I don't have earmarks on here, but
somewhere. So I had to find like page 37 that wasn't written all over.
Yeah, I write in the beginning of the book.
I love what you do. I love what you do.
And he says, so why don't you just earmark the pages? And I said, well, look here's the section on Policy Now Guidelines, and I have a star, and it's page 21, and I can go and I can find it. And here is, John, capitalize the word customer. Oh my God, John, that was such a big takeaway. We need, anytime you write a policy or send an email, the word customer needs to be capitalized. It's brilliant.
Everything in our vocabulary as a company, the C in customer or client or whatever we make, one of our business, the salons, is guest, is capitalized just to show the emphasis.
I love that. I love it. Get his books. I want to encourage you that if you ever have a chance to see this guy talk, you will absolutely get your money's worth. Let's button this thing up with the Disney experience, because I think most of my listeners can relate to why Disney works so good. And you were up there talking about the Disney Institute, and I had a chance to spend 3 days at it working for a company as we were working on a strategic plan. Okay?
Yeah.
And what I walked away with, one of Disney's principles, and I don't know where this fits in their hierarchy, was look them in the eye and smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I so fell in love with that. And so much of what you do in the teachings of your book that Ford is all about. Let's cover Ford for everyone. I know we covered it in the last episode, but that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Got all kinds of new listeners.
And we were in
now.
the pandemic. We were in our pajamas and all that.
That's right. So, but let's talk about Ford, and let's talk about a little bit of Disney fits into this incredible level of service.
Yeah. So Ford is from the relationship. Well, it's from both books. What it helps is when we meet, we all are pre-coded, genetically coded to be consumed with ourselves, right? I mean, it's my flight that was delayed. It's my son that got in trouble yesterday. It's my number one salesperson that is put in his resignation, right? And that's hard to turn off. So when I bump into Carm and we shake, and he's like, how you doing? And what are you doing? And I throw up on Carm and say, you wouldn't believe, Carm, the flight, lost my luggage, my son, yada, 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 yada. And me and Carm had 15 minutes and walk away. And I'm like, oh, me and Carm are we really aren't. I mean, I threw up on Carm. I talked about myself. I couldn't tell you, anything other than Carm, seemed like a nice guy and his name was Carm, right? I didn't, build a relationship. I just talked about myself. And that's a hard urge. So I say.
But you're talking transactional.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
And so I say, a great technique to help us stay off ourselves and focus on the other person is you have to try to learn 2 or more things of their Ford, F-O-R-D, right? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So now I'm thinking, all right, Carmen, you married? Do you have kids? It's not like a stalker checklist. It just comes up organically, right? And Carmen, what do you do? And oh, wow, how'd you get into that, Carmen? And whatever that is. And so it just helps you stay on the other person. But when you learn two or more things of the other person's Ford is what each of us geek out about, our own Ford, right? I want to talk to you about my boys. I want to talk to you about, their wrestling careers. I want to talk to you about what I like to do. I played baseball in college. I still play hardball, not so I get mad when people softball. No, not softball. I play 50 and older hardball, right?
No.
Yeah. So
You're 50?
I'm almost 60. But my point is that's my Ford. And if you would allow me, I would bore the crap out of you and talk about hardball for, whatever, right? So that's what we want to get from other people. Now you can follow up and say, Carm, how's, your daughter? Your daughter's getting married next September, I believe, in Lake Chautauqua.
Oh, no kidding. You remembered.
Oh, at the amphitheater or near the
Amphitheum.
Yeah, Amphitheum. Right. You keep that and you follow up and you send them an email in August saying, hey, good luck. I know that's coming. Or in October saying, how was your daughter's wedding? He's like, how does John know? Right. And so it's collecting that Ford. And what we talked about is, you probably could get Ford out of what's in my car. Right?
Exactly.
In my trunk, there's, a bat bag because I coach Little League, or the Diet Coke, or
the Mickey in the back seat.
All that's Ford.
Yeah.
And you can do so much with that, from starting a conversation, or if you're a VIP and I see that you were, had a Wisconsin Badger thing, I'm going to send you something Wisconsin Badger, or congratulate you that they, won a huge game against their rival or something. That's what Ford is.
And you collect this information in your CRM programs.
Yep.
So even if you're not the one seeing this customer that you've acquired data on,
yes,
building a relationship, you're not doing it to do anything but to forge a great relationship. And let my shop be the place you come to, because it doesn't matter about price. They care about me and my life.
I love what you just said there, Carm. Maybe I was your technician last year. Maybe I'm the business owner. I know you, and you just happen to mention why you need your car back because, your daughter's, wedding's coming up and, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now the next time you come in, maybe I'm not there, but my technician or my service advisor says, Carm, how was your daughter's wedding? And you look at me like, how do you know that? Oh, Carm, you're our favorite car. We all know that. And that's because someone documented it. He pulled it up. It said daughter got married or is getting married, September 23. It's as easy as that.
Intelligence gathering.
We call it customer intelligence.
Customer intelligence.
Yeah.
Ford, give us the acronym again.
Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
And it's brilliant, all of it. Thank you. I fell in love with that in the book. I know you covered it this morning. So Disney, they teach people in the role they play and the role they play in people's lives, how important it is. And when that grudge buy comes in, you have to be the hero.
Yeah.
And Disney's the hero for everyone who goes on vacation.
Right. 100%. I mean, there's so many great Disney stories, but so like you, I went to the Disney Institute. This is back in the 90s. Part of it, I got to tour Magic Kingdom on ground, and I see Snow White on break smoking a cigarette, complaining about her boyfriend. I was blown away. I'm like literally seeing Snow White smoking a cigarette, talking about how he was a jerk and yada, yada, yada. 5 minutes later, she goes back inside. She freshens herself up. She punches back in. She goes up these stairs through these bushes. She reappears on Magic Kingdom ground, and 15 little 5, 6, and 7-year-olds come charging at her. And she turns back in this beautiful angelic princess posing for pictures, signing their pads. And that's the beauty. Disney does such an incredible job. Downstairs on break, she was Susie Smith that was 22. They had a jerk for a boyfriend or a dwarf or whatever he is. But my son was there to see Snow White, and that's exactly what she gave him because Disney teaches them that.
We have to recognize the challenges that people have in life who work for us and are the face of the customer. Yeah. And there's going to be, if you will, Snow White moments from the basement, right?
Sure.
And they have to understand their role when it comes to being on. And if they're going to be off, they need to go somewhere to be off. I mean, right. I think that's a great analogy.
Right.
In Disney, it's underground. You're
right.
off.
Right.
When you're up, you're on. And understand that as hard as your life may be, the other person across from you could have gotten a bad diagnosis just a few hours ago,
yes.
even though they dropped their car off earlier in the day.
Right. Right.
And you never know the other person's real story.
The other beautiful thing about when you train your team members to leave it at the door, right, that they're paying for their experience, not yours, right? So if you got a flat tire, you got into a fight with your boyfriend, whatever, your last customer, was not the nicest. The next customer doesn't pay for that. It doesn't have less of an experience. And the other benefit too is it helps the employees, right? Because if you allow me, or I allow myself to vent to everyone that comes in about, oh, woe is me, obviously it's taking me down a dark hole, right? But if I have to, put that, and I got my therapist and my best friend to vent, right? But no one else needs to hear about it. And I need to, make your day. When we're day makers, the person that feels the best at the end of the day is the actual day maker, right? I go home and I'm like, man, there's 3 people that I know had a better day as a result of coming in contact with me. And that's why world-class companies at customer service have lower employee turnover and higher employee morale, because they, foster that type of culture. And, sometimes someone will come and say, you did what for a customer? You're allowed? And you say, hell yeah, we're allowed. That's nothing. And they might say, I would have gotten fired at my last job, for doing that. I'll be honest with you, you'd get fired at this job if you didn't do that. And all of a sudden, there's this, I'm going home feeling a lot better about myself. I'm getting beat up less by the customer, right? Because I don't have to hide behind policy. I can go get them the diet Sprite and don't have to ask permission, and the company will pay for it and see the look on their face or whatever that is. I mean, that's rewarding. That's fulfilling.
Some of our best operators are doing that. They're putting stuffed toys in the back seat. They're washing and cleaning inside and out of people's vehicles because they want to be a day maker for people. They want to be. So if there's anything, as you're listening to this episode, and we're going to button this up now, be a day maker and be the hero to your customer. And if you don't do the customer thing right, you're gone. I just think
you better be the cheapest.
Oh, yeah, you better be the cheapest. Wow. Maybe just about make grocery money every week.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
John Dijulius, thank you so much for opening up some time while you're here in Cancun
pleasure.
at Transformers. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Karma. It's great seeing you, and great finally meeting you in person.
Yeah, same here. Same with me.
Feeling your energy.
So the last time I interviewed John, he had a beard. He didn't have a beard. I never seen you with glasses on. So last night I come up to him and says, John, I had to take 3 stops to say, is this really you? Because I hadn't seen you. Nice transformation. I like it.
Oh, good. I went back. My fiance is with me. You got confused with my 3 boys, and
right.
my boys. But I went up last night and I said, this guy Carm said he saw me and he showed me my picture because you look nothing like this. But he didn't say like if that was a good or a bad. I go, I have no idea like if he just insulted me or was telling me, I need to update my picture. Oh, that's a really old picture.
Yeah, I know. That's a really old picture. Look at that. So
the Secret Service book is the best because in that I have my mullet. I mean, I miss my mullet. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one that you look like right here. It's in Relationship Economy. That's
maybe you better turn it to the camera.
Oh yeah. By the way, what I was doing. There's a camera over there too. Okay. I was looking all over for this.
Right.
Last night.
And I came to you like this, and you're like, "Can I help you?" But the other thing, Carm, that I guarantee threw you off, if you want to admit this, is I'm much shorter than people realize. And this happens to me. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. So especially when I can't get off a stage at a big conference. So I'm up on stage, there might be 500, 1,000 people in the audience. They see me and they say, John will be signing books at, booth, whatever, I'll come, I'll be ready and I'm signing books. And this happens so many times. Someone will come and say, where is he? I'm like, where's who? The guy. I'm like, the guy, the author? Yeah, that's me. No, it's really. I'm like, it's me. And they can't believe something, that stage makes me look a lot bigger. That probably threw you off when you look down and you're like, I don't know.
Should I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
I'm sure. That's okay.
Yes,
I own it.
Baby. But you were pretty big on stage today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, John.
Thank you.